Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I have to start by making a disclaimer. I am a scientist. Why will I have to make a disclaimer for being a scientist? Well, these days, science and non-science are having a hard time understanding each other. So I want to share my perspective, what it's like of being a scientist. Whose fault is it that science has gone so low on the social scale? In part, it is our fault. It is us, in part, scientists, who put a suitcase with a red button in there that some people with questionable morality will be able to just press it, and everything that is beautiful and good will get to disappear immediately. I'm not going to get into politics or anything like that because I have both Americans and Russians in here looking at me, so. But it's horrible that we were able to create something like that. And we also have been a part of working for corporations, working for different things. So that's a problem, and I think that a part of the blame is because of that. But still, I'm very proud of being a scientist. It's not because I might have a nice diploma or because I could have a TikTok channel with a couple of nice words before my name, but it is because of the scientific method. I am supposed to talk about GMOs, but before I get into that, I could start saying about recombinant DNA and restriction enzymes and a lot of fancy things. But the problem with GMOs, I believe, is the misunderstanding that there is between common people and what actually is going on. So I will start by talking about the scientific method. The scientific method is a set of something that will allow you to draw conclusions from observations. For example, somebody is mopping the floor 2 meters ahead of me, and I can tell that the floor is wet. And I can pretty much tell that the floor is wet because that guy who's mopping the floor is putting the mop on the bucket. So it is wet, therefore it is wet. Can I conclude somehow that there is a cause and effect in the whole thing? Okay, maybe I could. How? Well, I could put an experiment, compare it with a dry hallway where nobody will be mopping anything, see how the floor is, and see if the floor gets wetter if somebody is mopping the floor ahead of it. So at the end, maybe out of 10 observations, 9 will tell us that if somebody is mopping the floor will be wet. And we can do the same thing with pretty much everything. We can decide whether a TikTok guru will have any influence on the wet floor, whether the full moon of spring will have an influence, or whether an evil corporation will also have something to do with it. Okay, yes, let's bring the CEO of an evil corporation walking down the hallway and see if the floor gets wet. And the same thing with the TikTok guru or with pretty much everything. And then we will see that there is no correlation whatsoever. I can bring 1,000 of different evil CEOs and still the floor will not get wet. So based on that is the scientific method, and it's a scientific method that makes it possible for us to bring a box from our pockets, put it into that strange thing right there, and find out what the menu on a restaurant where we've never been before actually is. It's the same thing that allows us to put a rocket in the moon that will allow us to go out and get inside a metal thing with some round black things below of it instead of exploding, because it will have some highly flammable liquid inside. It will take us home, so we will not have to fight animals or a lot of crazy things. But right now we've gotten to a level of disinformation where it doesn't matter if somebody was following the scientific method, so following this type of observation. I was a virologist of the most prestigious institute in the world, or if that guy was an ignorant politician, or if it was a TikTok guru, somebody will say, and talk about the virus and coronavirus and pandemics and all that kind of thing. And people will say, okay, your opinion is as good as anyone else's. So it is not. Some people have more knowledge on some things and some others do not because they have followed a very specific methodology. The thing here is that with GMOs, exactly the same thing happens. What are GMOs? It's a genetically modified organism. What is genetic modification? Several years ago, thousands of years ago, there was this thing, some people call it Musa troglodyta. They are not sure about it. I think it's not the name, but it was a banana-like tiny thing like this. It was full of seeds, huge seeds, and it had some fleshy part that may have been sweet. Somebody came it, picked it up, realized it was good, so they started breeding it together, until we end up with the Musa paradisiaca, which is the common banana that we love so much. It was by causing a big damage to the plant itself, because that fruit, is the inheritance that the plant will have for its offsprings. So what are we doing with it? We're making it sterile. We're making something monstrous, some monstrosity for them. But we did that following a genetic modification. It may have been Mendelian genetics, but it's genetics no matter what. What's so special about transgenic or GMOs made by biotechnology? Well, that they are made on the laboratory by a lot of mad scientists doing a lot of mad scientists looking things. First, you identify the trait that you want to get. For example, you are in the US and you have some corn and it's been eaten by a moth. And you heard that in China, there is also a moth when there are caterpillars that get killed because of bacteria on the soil. That bacteria is Bacillus thuringiensis. So you go and you take that Bacillus thuringiensis, you remove some gene out of it, use some crazy enzymes in order to coat it, you mount it on a vector, also use some other types of enzymes, put it in that vector, and boom, get it into an undifferentiated cell of corn. How do you get that? Well, bombarding the cell by applying some electric current on it, giving a shot so it will open some pores on the membrane. Things that any respectable mad scientist will do, of course. And at the end, boom, the gene gets transferred to the other side. Then you grow it back, and voila, you have your new corn that if eaten by that caterpillar, it will be toxic to that caterpillar by transferring a gene from something from the other side of the world. You can do the same thing with an Australian jellyfish. You can get anything from anywhere. You can get it even from human cells and put it wherever you want to put it. Okay, sorry. Keeps turning off. But those are GMOs, actually. What are the actual dangers of GMOs? Can they be used for something bad? Of course they can. Absolutely. We can do monstrosities with them. If we are not careful, we can do very horrible things with GMO. The same thing as we did with atomic energy, or the same thing that can be done using the internet. However, marvelous things can also be done with GMOs. What are the main dangers of GMOs? On one side, it's the selectable markers that were used when they were being produced. In that vector that you put where you transfer the gene into the receptor cells, there had to be something that will allow you to tell which cells actually received the transgenes and which cells did not. So sometimes you can use a gene that will confer resistance to antibiotics. So therefore, you will grow it on a media full of antibiotics. Therefore, only the cells that will have received the transgene will grow, whereas the others will not. So one of the problems is resistance to antibiotics because of the way how they are made. There are some other options, some other methods, but it is one of them. What other could happen? What other thing could happen by eating a GMO? Well, allergies. If I'm eating a potato and that potato has a gene from the Australian jellyfish, and I happen to be allergic to Australian jellyfish, by consuming it, I can get in trouble for sure. It's very rare, but it happened. Has it ever happened? It had happened. But it's not more strange than just being allergic to pollen as I am, so I get my eyes a bit swollen. It's not really a big deal for the most part. What else? Cancer, immune system, all that. It's not really. I mean, it could potentially be if it is misused, but that's not really the point. Whereas, what can be the advantages of doing something like that? Just imagine, we may end up curing every known diseases to men. We can enormously improve nutrition, and I think that we as humanity will starve if not for not only genetic engineering, but biotechnology as a whole. Okay, it will prevent us from eating pesticides and herbicides. It can be used for good, absolutely. However, what is the problem? What is the actual problem? The problem is the way how it is handled. We live in a very egotistic, individualistic society where the only thing that we care about is for profit or personal growth or personal. It's a big problem. We are a very egotistic and selfish society. And the same thing happens when it comes to company, where the only thing that matters is to maximize profits and have shareholders more happy. So they don't care if somebody with one single crop conquers the whole world, wipes out biodiversity, and they grow only one single thing. And they bring all the legal power in order to enforce that thing. Those are the problems that occur when you have a very powerful tool in your hands. And I think that's the main issue regarding GMOs and regarding biotechnology and regarding the way how they are used these days. I'm not going to get too much into that. I understand that it's a very expensive process. Therefore, they need to make some profit out of it. But the problem is by doing it too much. I believe that it can actually help us to save the world. Are they dangerous? Of course they are. Are there any potential things, hidden things that could harm us? Of course they could. But as with everything, what I really believe that should happen from us as a society, and that is a good thing about some group gatherings at the one that we have in here, is to enhance the level of consciousness and enhance the level of knowledge and not act or do anything or take any decisions based on hysteria, but based on informed knowledge instead. And if we can do that, I mean, genetic engineering, just artificial intelligence or using atomic energy or anything else could just be a very powerful tool for improving our lives and even for improving the planet. And I think that that's pretty much it. If anybody wants to know privately anything, well, I'll be sitting here. I think you can find my phone anywhere. Thank you very much.